something hyper important for us, is super high. The cost of the salaries here in Jamaica are also very, very high. I mean, when you compare the salaries compared to other countries, neighbor countries, at least the kind of salaries we are paying to our workforce, I can say is higher. And I understand that because also the country is much more expensive, you know, in a lot of more things, right? So that, in my opinion, is the first difference. Second difference is about productivity. And I always like to link productivity with education, right? And I'm not saying that people are not educated here, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the industrial segment in which we compete, which is very relying on maintenance, electrical maintenance, and mechanical maintenance, having very strong engineers in those two fields. People do not study for that normally, you know, in Jamaica and in other Caribbean countries. So we have a lack of talent eventually that we are covering in the meanwhile with standard people that we're bringing from other countries, other operations. And we are now in that process of educating our people in working for us as engineers, you know. We can find very nice bankers or lawyers, or a lot of other things in Jamaica, but finding good, very good, solid engineers for us, that is a lack that we're seeing. So I would say scale, I would say productivity, and very linked together with education.
How do you find, okay, if you can't find the people that you need here in Jamaica easily, is it easy enough for you to bring them from abroad? Or are there blockages?
Well, every case is different, right? And individual. I mean, you can find, of course, very good talent. So what we are now is collaborating with the university very closely. So we've launched this year our second program of what we call CEMEX Campus, which is a collaboration with the university. So last year we hired 15 young engineers, 15, right? And we brought them to the plant. Out of the 15, probably 5 or 6 will stay with you. The other ones you need to, I mean, take them out because they don't want to be with us. They don't like the way we work or whatever, the kind of industry. But yes, little by little, we are finding very good young talent. For experienced talent is what I said before. I mean, sometimes we need to import, let's say, some human resource from abroad eventually.
Okay. And looking at the special economic zone, I suppose one opportunity for you will be construction, and an increase in construction should that happen. But how are you looking for exports now for Carib cement in Jamaica?
We're looking at that very intensively. As soon as we have a 30% expansion capacity, as soon as that becomes a reality, we're expecting that for the end of next year. We are looking to different Caribbean CARICOM industries and CARICOM markets, because CARICOM common market is offering a good competitive advantage for the companies that are inside CARICOM, right? So we'll be looking to different CARICOM and other Caribbean destinies. I myself, for example, take care of the cluster between Jamaica and Bahamas. So Bahamas currently is importing some material from Panama. And when you see a map, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I mean, it's just far away. So again, we need to take advantage of our strategic location to start exporting to Cayman, to start exporting to Bahamas, and to start exporting to even other further destinies like Guyana, for example, which is a market that is now pumping up dramatically because of the oil boom. So I guess that we might be in a position to export to several markets in the Caribbean basin, basically.
And what about incoming investors? Is there any scope with that for you, or is there any advice that you could give for anybody thinking of investing in Jamaica?
I mean, it's what I said before. I mean, I really don't know a lot about the tax environment or benefits or those special economic zones or things like that. I'm not very much into that. What I could say to foreign investors is that these countries much more serious than it looks like from an investor point of view. Sometimes you can have the impression, and I don't want to sound as anything. I mean, it's just what people might think and say, oh, it's Jamaica, because maybe what happens with my money if I go there and invest, my money, is my money secure? Is that going to be, I mean, and I'm telling everybody, I mean, this is a serious country. You might concur with the policies or whatever, and I don't want to talk about politics because I don't know anything about politics. But what I can tell you is people are serious. When you sit together with people, you have very relevant businessmen who know what they are doing. The politicians, I think they know what they are doing. It gives the impression that if you come here and invest, of course, you can have either a good or a bad business. Of course, nothing is 100% secure in life, but it gives the impression that it's a good environment to do business. I mean, when I compare Jamaica to my countries in Europe, I don't see such a difference in, in what country is more secure in order to bring your investment and be secure and have opportunities. So I would say that is the most important thing. And the other important thing is once you do a profit, I mean, it's not that the country is very hard on taxation, right? It's not that, okay, they want to keep your money. If you're going to do money here, it's impossible to take out the money to somewhere else, So those two things, being secure about, okay, it can go bad, it can go well, but my money won't be stolen, won't be, nothing strange is going to happen with it. I mean, and at the end, if things goes well, I could take and repatriate my profits, and those two things, from a very high level point of view, as you can see, I mean, I don't have the details. I think it could be my advice if you allow me to a foreign guy thinking about investing in Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. Sorry, Ricky. I really am so happy you said that because, many people, many investors think see Jamaica as a banana republic, and we simply are not. And the economic environment in which we are operating, and the banking system, and the ability to take your money out when you want it, hundreds and hundreds of millions of US and dollars and British pounds and euros are being exported by international companies on a daily and weekly basis. We simply have no restrictions, and we're one of the oldest democracies in the Western Hemisphere. So we are certainly in the region, and we have a stable democracy, and our banking and our legal systems are all really first world. So thank you, Iago, for saying that. It's important.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Fully agree.
Metri, could you touch a little bit more on that 5-year plan and what it might involve for future investors and yourself?
Well, and it was done some while ago, so I don't have it in front of me, and I'm no longer the president or even the immediate past president of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. But from what I remember, it really spoke to us using the resources that we have. So, for example, so the special economic zone was one of the pillars of the plan. One of the other pillars was to use the natural resources that we have for agriculture, and to develop the agriculture in a way that we could add value to it and then export or use for ourselves. So when I say use for ourselves, having the government procurement policies changed so that we can give benefit to local manufacturers, and two, to develop the linkages with the tourism sector so that instead of the tourism importing billions of dollars of value-added products and even agricultural items like potatoes or tomatoes, for us to be able to utilize those linkages. And I think those are two of the key elements of the strategic plan moving forward.
There could be a lot of opportunity for manufacturing for the tourism industry that might not currently be used.
Right. Absolutely. And as I said, it's about the policy, and it's about letting investors know that when you come here, yes, you're free to do what you want, but within certain constraints. And my own feeling is that I would like investors to start looking in country first rather than looking at outside, so everybody is looking at the cheapest product to buy, And I'll speak for my own industry. I'm in the furniture business, so I manufacture furniture for hotels and restaurants. So when a large hotel is coming to Jamaica, we want the policies to have them at least give an opportunity to the local companies to manufacture here. It's good business. It's good business for the country, and it's good business for the people that are investing here. Because as I said earlier, rising tide lifts all ships. So, hotels don't want to come to an island that is destitute and its people are poor. That's not what's going to make them a lot of money. And Jamaican is making investors lots of money, or they wouldn't be here.
I think something that concerns potential investors, apart from the Banana Republic image that they might have, is the size of the market, which is small. It's 2.8 million. Yeah. The might help tackle that, and as you said, the closeness to the American market. Does CARICOM carry much advantage? We're talking about some other small countries, so what's the advantage there?
So CARICOM combined is about 11 million people. Relatively small, depending on the size of your company. But we are not looking for manufacturers to come to Jamaica to service the Jamaican market. Whilst it's important and it's a start, we want companies like Carib Cement, CEMEX, to be coming to Jamaica to start there, but to do exactly what Iago is doing, building capacity, building productivity, and taking that productivity to the world. So they're moving in a structured way. They're moving to the next step, which is the Caribbean. My hope, listen, if you spit north, it lands in Florida. And if you spit south, it lands in Latin America. So there is no good reason why we are not utilizing two of the richest markets in the world that are at our doorsteps. And it's simply because our mindset has never been there. We have never had that mindset. And it is important. And I'll confess, I've been there. I've been, throughout my 36 years in the manufacturing business, I have been at the point where I've said, no, we need to stop imports from coming in and we need to block these. No, we don't. I'm a convert. So I recognize that what we need is we need to give our local manufacturers an opportunity to build and grow. So there may be some protection for some period of time in some industries that we are capable. But in the long run, what we want is to make ourselves competitive, productive, and able to export. Because any manufacturing, if we are expecting manufacturing to carry its weight and to be an integral part of this country's GDP, it's not going to do it with 2.5 million people. Simply not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think another important point, which you've spoken about before, and you, Iago, is to do with the repatriation of profits and the trust or the belief that you have in the Jamaica's legal system. Would you like to touch on that and say what it is about Jamaica's legal system that might make it better than some of its neighbors or competitors? Iago or Metri?
Well, I can't speak to the legal system. What I can tell you is that our financial system and the way it's set up, we have put ourselves in a position, and starting with the previous government and moving into this government, that really just tightened their belts and said, listen, we're going to get our house in order, and we moved our debt to GDP ratio from nearly 140 down to about 100. And that has put us in a strong financial position. We have an independent central bank, and anybody, and I'm sure Iago can testify to it, when he needs money to repatriate to his head office, he gets it. We have we have a system of that's based on demand and supply, and it works as far as I know.
Yes, well, I'm not a legal specialist by any means. I just basically know how to produce cement. But I mean, don't want to be reiterative in my point. I mean, I think it's the image of seriousness of the country. I think it's an asset, a goodwill asset if you want. We also support it. I mean, this idea of, yes, I agree with Metri. I mean, the financial system is solid. You can see that from a legal point of view. How do you say this? I mean, I haven't felt any insecureness as yet. I mean, I don't know how better, you know, the legal system is in Jamaica compared to Dominican Republic or, well, I was going to say Cuba, but that's a different story. But I mean, you go to, I don't know, Cayman Island, whatever. I guess that, I mean, every country in the Caribbean is different in a sense. I mean, there's a lot of diversity there. But what I can tell you is that, I mean, every time you need to do business, every time you need to go through any administrative process, etc., you see that the legal part of every business you do is quite solid. Sometimes we can say it's too bureaucratic. You can see that the legal part is extremely bureaucratic. Eventually, that happens. That it slows down the way of doing business eventually. And I want to say that there's some room probably for improvement there, to have a more pragmatic approach in certain things. I mean, I detect that eventually everything is very tied up to protocols and very bureaucratic, but at the same time, that produces a sensation of secureness from the legal angle of doing business. But I mean, I'm no one to compare, of course, the legal situation of the country compared to other ones.
Okay. I want to look at labor a little bit, at unions. How do you find workers' unions to work alongside them? Are they good, or are they not so good? I mean, I know that people in general probably don't like them too much, but maybe they're better than in other countries.
Metri, I think you're gonna take that one first, right?
Sure. Listen, my factory is small. We have about 100 workers. And over the years, we started out without a union. Somewhere maybe 10, 15 years ago, a couple of workers got together and they brought a union in. And within 9 months, they asked the union to leave. And because we were treating them better than the union thought we had needed to. Unions are unions all over the world. If you treat people with respect, unions in Jamaica live by a particular code. You must give an employee the opportunity to defend themselves in every case. I would say that I have seen some unions operate in other jurisdictions that are much more unreasonable than ones in Jamaica. I think our unions have grown. I think our union leaders have developed and are looking at best practices and recognizing the shortfalls that some of our workers have and have had, and are helping to build. So I think that we do have unions here. They are strong, but I don't think they are. I don't think they're prohibitive in any way. That's been my experience, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope I laid the foundation for you to answer.
Diego?
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the middle of two screens and I was a bit lost. No, I basically agree with what you said. I mean, in the Caribbean region is strong. I mean, it's unionized. Unions are strong. I mean, they are strong in Barbados. They are strong in Trinidad. and they are also strong in Jamaica, right? So if you compare that part with what you can see in other countries, you can go to Europe. Europe, we also have strong unions. I mean, but probably the position of the unions have evolved basically, and probably they lost some power in the last 20 to 30 years, no doubt about that. As far as the economies move more towards free economies and liberal economies, which is basically, I would say, generally talking, right? I mean, you have everything. You can see my country. We're going in but I mean, it's more going to liberal model scheme, right? So here in the Caribbean, I mean, unions are strong. I would say that in Jamaica, they are strong. We have a heavy unionized staff, and I'm gonna lie to you. We go through rough and intense negotiations with them. But yes, I agree with Metri that at least they are not, I mean, they are using the leverage and the bargaining power in an educated and reasonable way. Eventually, at the beginning of the conversations, you can see that the difference are stupidly big, right? And this is something I learned when I came here and said, well, this guy asking 30%, where is he living, right? But then you understand that it's a way of negotiating, and you know every environment has a different way of negotiating, and then when you you know approach different postures and you see that at the end, people willingness is to have a better future for them and their families, and we are not against that system, that model. Sometimes when I talk to my colleagues about the salaries and benefits we are paying our people, they say, "Oh, you're crazy. I mean, you need to reduce that. You need to have." I mean, we don't believe that is a way forward. I mean, we like the idea of our people being, you know, fairly paid so that they can have fairly good futures for themselves, from their families, because otherwise it's impossible to create this long-term loyalty, right? So yes, they are heavy, they are strong. You need to, of course, reserve a good portion of your day to talk and negotiate about several things. But at the end, I think that they are using, as I said before, the leverage on a proper way, in a reasonable way, on an educated way. It's not that they are just, at least what I've experienced here, is not that they are taking things to the extremes, you know.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that so far. I hope I won't see that in the future either.
Mm-hmm. So with your business of cement, which is construction, do you see any other possibilities for other investors to come in with something that is not cement, but something that might be complementary to your industry?
Well, I mean, this is a market that is evolving, right? And is, I mean, how do you say this? I mean, the way of using the cement here in Jamaica is 75% in bag cement, and mostly that bag cement is going to the informal market. So when you say informal market, is because they are mixing up the cement and producing the concrete on site with their hands, and they are building whatever they have to build. But that is not the trend in other countries. In other countries like Europe or US, you will see that trend is exactly the opposite. You will have 25% of that bag cement, and the rest 75% is more what we call industrial, channel industrial segment. So I would say that there's an opportunity there. Not necessarily we need external investors. It can be also local investors. I mean, I think there's a good portion of capital here in Jamaica. There are a lot of people, you know, thinking about entrepreneurship, thinking about doing business. A lot of smart people with the right amount of capital, sometimes with a spare capital to be allocated. And I think that being part of that transformational evolution, you want, from the informal to the formal sector, from the usage of bag cement to the usage of more sophisticated products made out of cement, like mortars and ready-mix products, you know. This is more the trend that will unavoidably come in the coming years. And together with that, you need certain investment in new plants, in new technology, you know, new capacitation for your people as well. So I think this is a normal, logical evolution pattern that can be capitalized, not only by international investors, but also by local people, who's willing to enter this market.
Could you give me what you think of of the future 5 years from now, how your company will do and how manufacturing might do in Jamaica? I'm going to ask both of you, but you can start. Yeah.
Okay. So 5 years from now, that's a tough one.
5 years from now, but I mean over the next 5 years.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I would say politically wise, and again, I do not follow any colors, right? Either orange or green in the case of Jamaica. I don't care. But I mean, politically wise, I think that it's expected that we'll have some stability in the policies, in everything that we've been discussing in the conference. At least that will give us some visibility about certain kind of policies to be applied. We'll more or less know how it's going to be the play field, right? So I think that is one good thing. The other thing is that, and I'm talking more about my sector, my business, at the end, we are seeing the demand quite in a peak right now. I don't foresee that we are coming back probably to the levels that we used to have 2 years ago. I think that as soon as the economy is able to produce that, how do you call that in English? Like the primary superavit,
surplus,
before paying back the debt. I mean, if you're able to generate that superavit, right? If your revenues are about your expense before paying back the debt, I think the natural trend for the construction industry, taking into account the level of development of the country, right? We're talking about a poor country with a long way to go, with the right trend, but a long way to go. So as soon as Matthew was saying, as those primary macro financial indicators are in order and they're keeping the same trend, and as soon as the policies are applied reasonably, I think that there's certain, how do you call it, structural levers, that should drive up. I'm talking about single-digit growth, right? I'm not expecting double-digit growth from now in my industry, but we're expecting like a stable growth, compound growth, if you allow me, in the low single-digit. I would expect something like that in the coming 5 years. From our side, we're betting on that. As I said before, we'll keep on investing. I mean, we have a very ambitious 5-year capex plan. I can tell you, we have a base capex annually wise of $10 million that we are investing. And for example, next year it will be like 40 to 50 because of this expansion that I explained before. And the idea is, because I already have bucketed that for the coming 4 years, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, to spend $10 million a year. So we are betting on that. Our macro projections says that. It's going to happen, I don't know, but I mean, we have certain confidence in having a visible play field and a reasonable growth, low single digit probably, but compound annual growth in the coming years.
Okay. Well, what about cement for roads? Is this part of your plan, or how's that going?
Sorry, cement for roads.
Instead of
for roads. Yes, this is this is a pretty used topics, right? It's saying like, wow, why you guys don't get into the concrete roads? Our roads, they are breaking up or falling apart all the time. Every time we have a storm, we have a hurricane, you see, and it's true, I mean, first of all, we know how to do these concrete roads, but we are not a construction company, and we've had certain experiences in other countries, and we don't want to be in that segment anymore. I mean, it's not that we are willing to integrate ourselves vertically downstream and start building concrete roads in Jamaica. That's not going to be our business idea by any means. So probably partnering with our construction companies, especially with companies with some experience in infrastructure, that can be an option in the coming years. But our role there would be like, of course, providing all the materials that are needed, but maybe advising on the kind of machinery and solution to be applied. But for our side, that is not something that we are, visioning or envisioning to vertically integrate downwards, as I was saying before. So I think this, and the other thing is, the other angle is the cost. When you see the whole life cycle, it's better to build on concrete, especially in these kind of countries in which it's difficult to have a recurrent maintenance bucket every year, you know, to be spent. That's one issue, and the other issue is the climatology, right? I mean, you have very hard and intensive rains. You can have hurricanes. I mean, the durability of the roads is important, but also the initial investment is higher than the asphalt. Not a lot higher, maybe 15, 20% higher, but that impacts the baseline of the budget of the country as well. So getting into that additional investment is not always easy, you know, to get. So eventually we'll get there. I think it's a trend. I don't see my company being a main actor in this, but we could be a support for anyone interested, and we will try to support them as to the maximum of our capabilities.
Okay. Mitch, is there anything more you want to say about the special economic zone and what sort of company?
Well, to be honest with you, Ricky, I'm very bullish on Jamaica. I think that as Iago said, we're starting from a low base. There's a lot of investment ability here in Jamaica. My own company, we are in the process of deciding to go public on the junior market, which is another very interesting thing that has been done by the government. So we are hoping before the end of the year to be going public, and it's exciting. We're looking at mergers and acquisitions and partnerships, and I think that Jamaica has a lot to offer to investors, both locally and international. We're a good place to do business. We're an hour away from the continental United States. We are 2 hours away from most places in South America. We are perfectly located. We speak the language. We have the workforce. We have good infrastructure. We have good roads. I mean, there are places in other parts of the world that lose power every day. We have good power. We have good connectivity. We have good services like internet, and so yeah, electricity might be a little expensive, especially for Iago's industry, but prices are coming down and have come down significantly. There's the opportunity to use solar. We have 350 days of sunlight every year. So the opportunities are there, and Jamaica is very, very hot. And I encourage anybody that's looking to invest to look towards Jamaica. It really is the place to be. And when you come, you know why you have come.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Diego, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, well, very well said, Metro. I think that was a good closer. I fully agree. No, from my side, thanks for the invitation. Again, apologies. I'm just starting to learn a little bit how to be Jamaican. I think at least I could bring, you know, a different angle, perspective from, you know, a company that is trying to do a good business here, is doing a good business here, and is betting to have a good business here for the long run. So I think that perspective is interesting. There are companies that could bring it as well. I mean, we have other international companies, and I can assure you that I know the managing directors and the general managers of many other companies in many other sectors, and they're also doing good business here. So when I'm talking about my experience here, is also what I hear. It's not only what I see in my company. And yes, I think that the country has a brilliant future. There's certain things that we need to take care of course, like every economy worldwide. But yes, I agree with Metri that somewhat the future is good. And yes, I encourage international investors. Let me tell you, just to close, that I did the same. I just sold my flat in in Spain. I brought some money here, so I'm investing now in Jamaica. So
Excellent.
yeah, I'm saying that is because I mean it. So I don't like, as we say in Spain, to sell smoke, right? I like to sell cement, but not smoke.
That's a good sign if you've been in 5 other countries and,
yeah.
and now you're
Okay, we can put that off the record, okay, about my personal investment. That is true. So, and again, thanks.
That's why I said when you come, you know.
Yeah.
And thanks for the invitation to Jampro. I have very good relation with Jampro since I came. Thanks to Diane and all the team. So I hope that the event goes very, very well, and we can bring some more investors to Jamaica.
Great.
Good way to end.
Thank you.
Well, great meeting both of you too.
A pretty solid session there on Jamaica's manufacturing sector. Not much I could really add. Just to borrow from Metro Siaga, look to Jamaica to invest, and when you do, you'll know. You'll know indeed. And what I want you to know about in this segment of our program is a success story, and this one comes from Tough Gong. It's been around since 1965 and was founded by, I'll allow you to guess. Go on. Yeah? The man himself, Bob Marley, the legend. Here's a little more behind this global brand Jamaica powerhouse.
My name is Licia Gay Taylor. I'm the operations manager here at Tough Gong International. Tough Gong, as you know, is Bob Marley's nickname, for want of a better word. He was called Gong, Tough Gong. And so he started the Tough Gong recording studio back in the 70s. And his vision was to actually have a one-stop shop. And it was to be a space where you would record your music, you would press your vinyl, and you would distribute the music. And so the original location of this business was up by 56 Hope Road. And then when he transitioned, his wife, Dr. Rita Marley, decided that she would build on that vision. So she relocated the property here by purchasing this property, which was then Federal Records. And we have a much larger space. So now we have a rehearsal room, the recording studio, which we're sitting in now, and the vinyl factory, which we have revitalized. And I'm so excited to talk about and to tell you about. That's a new addition to the business now. So you know, vinyl, just before COVID, there was actually a resurgence of vinyl. Before CDs and cassettes and the modern ways in which we consume music, music was really on vinyl records. And so it has been a vision of members of the Marley family to kind of recreate our vinyl factory. And we recently did that. So we've got new machines, new state-of-the-art machines that actually change the process. So it's no longer using a boiler, it's more efficient, but we're able to produce vinyl records that are of quality. Doing business in Jamaica is interesting. The good thing about entertainment is, remember, this is Jamaica. Reggae is the heartbeat of Jamaica, and music is like our lifeblood. So it's everywhere in Jamaica, and we have people from all over the world who are influenced by our music, who actually come here so that they can be a part of that experience. We have a certain level of brand value that everybody in the world wants. So we enjoy doing business on that platform. From an administrative level, it can be a bit tedious at times, but I think we have improved tremendously in terms of how we've done business. In particular, when we talk about the vinyl, I'm very, very grateful to Jampro and our Ministry of Culture, because they've pretty much, you know, held our hands and walk us through the process to help us get the incentives that were required to bring in the equipment and to just help us understand and navigate the system as it relates to going back into manufacturing and producing vinyl. So they have both been two very helpful entities for us. And so I would say that we're excited about what the future will bring and how we will continue to build out the vinyl factory, but to continue to operate our studios and our rehearsal space here in Jamaica. Our success doing business in Jamaica, this is Tough Gong International Recording Studio. The name Tough Gong is known throughout the world. it's synonymous with Bob Marley. Bob Marley is known the world over. So we've attracted clients from all over the world. People come here because they want to record in our studio. They want to have their vinyl pressed in Jamaica. They want to feel the spaces that Bob Marley has walked or has been in, and they want to get that level of inspiration. So we've had international recording artists from all over come here. So we've had that level of success. As it relates to the vinyl, even though we're very early in the business, we already have orders for over 60,000 units to be exported. And we know that once people are aware of it, once we start to do effective public relations around it, then we're gonna have clients from all over the world who will want to have brand Jamaica on their vinyl, who will want to say that they had their vinyl pressed here at Tuff Gong. So even though it's a niche market, we're not worried about the level of competition, because we know that our brand name and our brand value gives us good amount of equity in this market. Jamaica is a great place for investment, and I'm speaking specifically now about entertainment. Why Jamaica? It's the obvious answer. We are such a tiny dot when you look on the world map, but look at the influence that reggae and dancehall has had all over the world. And we know it because even the biggest artists in the world try to incorporate dancehall and reggae beats in their music because of the influence of Bob Marley, who is a reggae superstar and legend. When we look at the reggae billboards, I mean, Bob Marley has lived on that billboard and continues to live on it indefinitely. So if you are definitely in the entertainment space, you want to come here in Jamaica to do business, because we have great talent. We have a culture that obviously impacts all the world, and which is something that should inspire you to be creative. We have the talent here. We have people who are capable of producing quality work. So I would say, why not Jamaica? Jamaica is the best place to do business, especially if it's entertainment. Let's do business, Jamaica.
Reggae, Bob Marley, Tuff Gong, quite a success story there. And of course, we'll speak a little bit more on the creative economy and some of the developments and opportunities that are there a bit later in our program. For now, though, I'm going to head over to Titans of Business Part 2, the Metro Siaga story.
We have our people, we have our language, we have our infrastructure. All of these things are key advantages that we have, that other places that are taking advantage of some of the benefits that these countries have to offer do not have. We have a culture here that we believe in our people, and we believe that our people are our family. And we know that together, that strength together, is going to bring us through any challenge that may arise. The advice that I would give to people wanting to get into manufacturing is that there is no more rewarding career that I know of. It is a beautiful thing to take product from its raw state and turn it into a finished product, and to see people using it. So it's something our workers talk about all the time. So we manufacture products for KFC. And when they go into a KFC and see people and families enjoying the product that they have manufactured, the tables, the chairs, the benches, the booths, the walls, it gives them a level of satisfaction that's immeasurable. So to me, it's a very rewarding profession. Those that want to go into manufacturing understand that it is hard. But anything that is too easy is never good. The reward is never as sweet. So I encourage people that the only way we are going to grow our nation is to get into value added or value addition. If we don't add value here with local expertise, with local knowledge, and with local hands and hearts, we will not grow our country. So get into manufacturing, get into value addition, and you will be a part of helping to grow our country to higher heights.
My name is Michael Leachen. I am the chairman of the National Commercial Bank Financial Group of Jamaica. Well, my most recent investment project is agriculture. Huge opportunity for farmers, Jamaica investors, but also investors, period. There are many things you have to do before you can say, yes, I really want to be a farmer/investor in Jamaica. You need to get through all the regulatory hurdles. JAMPRO, their business is to hold the investor's hand and say, come, let me take you. So why is Jamaica the perfect place to be invested right now? Jamaica has great location. You can make great margins. You're protected by legal framework. The macroeconomic situation is outstanding today. Interest rates are low. Liquidity is there. That is what will be the catalyst for foreign investors to be confident also.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Our next two guests here on the panel, Don Gittins and Shalette Cox. Don now is back in his capacity as manager with oversight for infrastructure. And Shalette joins us to tell us about research and advocacy at JAMPRO and the role of public-private partnerships in this whole business of investment. Shalette, I'll start with you. In all we do, we must be guided by research. So tell me a little bit about what you do to inform approaches to investment strategy and also to guide some of these priority areas for JAMPRO.
All right, thank you for that question. So, yes, research is very important. And in JAMPRO, we kind of do it two ways. We are guided by the experience of our teams. So sometimes they're in the market, they see things that are happening, and they come back to us and they say, you know, can we take a look at this? Can Jamaica do this? And so at the beginning of every year when we do our planning, we have our full research agenda of what we're going to be doing. And it focuses in two ways. On the work of the organization. So we do economic scans globally, locally to inform our promotional strategies. And sometimes we deep dive. So for example, we just signed a contract with funding from JSIF, the READY program, to do a coffee marketing strategy. And that coffee marketing strategy will look at how has the coffee product evolved and how does Jamaica need to respond to that in our marketing efforts globally. And then on the other side, we also do research to inform our clients in making business decisions. So we identify a number of business opportunities that are out there, and we package all of the critical information that one would need in order to decide whether or not they want to look at this industry. So for example, last year, we would have done a ton of research on limestone and the derivatives of limestone. Because one of the things that we're pushing at JAMPRO, and you would have heard it throughout the conference, is that we're not just a source of primary goods. We want you to take that raw material and take it a step further up the value chain before you export it from Jamaica. And so we did that for limestone. We've looked at bamboo, the bamboo industry, for example. We've looked at lifestyle villages. We've looked at agricultural technology. And so those are some of the things that we do. We work very closely with our sector sales teams, and they take that information and push it out to the universe of potential investors.
Give me a little bit of insight. Break it here first, Shalette. What's the next big thing? What's the research pointing at?
Wow. For us, one of the big areas we're looking at now is blue economy. And I think it coincides very well with all the discussions that we're having around climate change and climate mitigation and adaptation. But blue economy, if you look at Jamaica's surrounding areas in water, we have more space in water than we have on land in Jamaica. And so far, we've really only leveraged the blue economy for transportation through logistics as well as tourism. We have not started to tap into the bioproducts that can come out of the sea. So, for example, a big one is sargassum. We've heard about it. It's seen
We
as
hate it.
I was
It's
about
annoying.
to say. I was about to say that it's seen as a pest in most areas, but really it can be used to boost crop yield and crop production, and you can use it to introduce new products on land that is not now good for farming.
Right.
Seaweed and algae. You'd be amazed to know that industry is $1 billion industry, and 73% of that is for human consumption.
Right.
Now in Jamaica, we don't
Yuck.
consume. Exactly, we don't consume it. But as an economy that we know we have to focus a lot more on export, those are some of the things that we've started to look at in JAMPRO to see how can we package these opportunities. It's right around the island,
Right.
endless supply, and so how can we drive some business opportunities there?
And speaking of driving business opportunities, Dan, infrastructure, another big thing, because an investor coming in wants to know that there is that framework, not just as it relates to policy, not just as it relates to regulatory framework, but there is that infrastructure framework that facilitates doing business, easy access, transportation, all of that.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what's happening there.
Well, Shalette did so well just now. I mean, I don't know how I can top that. But as it relates to infrastructure, all the infrastructure, private public partnerships that are being handled in the country on behalf of the government is done by the Development Bank of Jamaica. And we work very closely with them, and they have a world-class team over there. And I'm happy that we're able to work with them. So some of the projects that they have been working on currently, they're looking at the waste to energy, which we discussed a little bit over the past 2 days. That's a PPP project. Cayman a special economic zone, that's another one. And they've been also working on a lot of water projects with NWC as well. And some of the successful projects that they would have done before, like how you mentioned, the infrastructure to move around, etc., would have been the highways, the Mali International Airport, which I was a part of the team that actually did that, so I was able to see. So I'm speaking firsthand. Fantastic team.
Yes.
And as well as the port itself. So those were some of the transactions that they would have done. And they have a track record of doing this. For Interscope, they are ranked third in the region out of, I believe, 16, 17 countries. So they're right up there at the top of the echelon. And 16, 17 years ago, the first transaction was Sangster, right? So they have a track record. And we have a track record of doing infrastructure projects,
And
which
that's
is
good
key.
And that's good to hear, because
Yes.
generally we think of infrastructure projects, we think of a more long-term buying. And
Yes.
my question to you would be, are you seeing that investors are willing to make that commitment for the long haul?
Yes, they do, and they want to. So, for example, Wigton, we can look at Wigton. Wigton is one for the long haul. Wigton has a power purchase agreement with JPS, which is about 15, 20 years. So investors in that knows that there's a guaranteed income for another 15 to 20 years.
Right.
So they are here for the long haul. They want to ensure that they get the best ROI on their investment. And as Shulette said it so aptly, information. Information is key, and that's what we here at JAMPRO do. We give you the information to make sure you make the right decisions. And I see Shulette like she wanted to say something just now.
Yes,
Go ahead.
No, you raise a very good point, and you asked a good question. In terms of longevity, we also need to show that Sangster International, for example, you mentioned, 18 years ago that divestment happened.
Right.
But right now we have an expansion project on our books. So it's not about a one-time investment sometimes when it comes to infrastructure, but there's that big first investment, but there's always growth that happens. And it's kind of a symbiotic process, because as the economy grows, infrastructure has to expand to facilitate that growth.
And with all this research that you do, Shilette, how do you create, I think I know the answer, fora like these. Let me create my own question. But how do we ensure that we get the information to the potential investors so that they're making these conscious business decisions, you know, to choose, okay, yes, Sangster 18 years ago, but 18 years later, I can still find value in that business decision.
And that, you're very right, for like this. And it's not always as big as this. I mean, our sector teams Also, over the last 18 months, of course, we've changed how we've been promoting, but we do a lot of promotional work on sector-based opportunities. So we've been doing webinars on logistics infrastructure, and we try to ensure that the opportunities that are there are tabled at those events, and that as much as possible, we have the investors as a partner that can come and pitch their own investment opportunities. And one of the other ways that we're going to be starting to do it is to write up more in traditional media and partnering with traditional media sources to get the information out there once it's produced.
And I guess one of those pieces of information we need to get out there done, public-private partnerships, they work.
They work.
But what are some of the other arrangements that you would rely on to ensure that we are getting these projects up and running and that investors are seeing the benefits of them?
Well, apart from the PPPs, there's also the request for proposal. So what that is we make sure that all of the information, and one of the things that we want to do is make sure that all of the transactions are transparent, right? That is key. So that anyone who's looking on Jamaica, we can say we do transparent transactions as a government, right? So with request for proposals, what we do is we put all of the information out there, and we give you all of the, like I said earlier, information is key. That is what allows someone to decide if they're going to invest or they're going to take their funds elsewhere. And being able to give them that information easily and freely is key to us making sure that we can, make sure people want to come and look at Jamaica. Make sure that they know exactly what they're getting before they even look in our direction. So
Shillette, I'll give you the final word. Why should they even look in our direction?
Why should they?
Yeah.
Because one of the main things that Jamaica has sought to do is to structure. It's always difficult to do business with government, to invest with government, to put your money in a project that a government entity is in charge of is also something that is difficult. We have gone about putting together a divestment and public-private partnership policy. We have gone further, and this year we've actually started discussions to have a joint venture policy that will guide how we interact and create special purpose vehicles for investments. We have put a structure in place in government that manages public investment management, and that is a process of evaluation and approvals up to cabinet. So there's a structure, there's a governance framework, and there's a surety in that if you invest in Jamaica, if you invest in PPPs with Jamaica, that there's a path that you can follow to realize your investment success.
Quite reassuring. Thanks very much, Shillette Cox, Don Gittins, telling us about that nexus, that beautiful relationship between research, how research informs policy, how that leads to action, and of course produces results. More on results, let's take a look at some of our businesses that are showing those great results.
SMEs are the backbone of our economy, and we're here to help support them through these challenging times. Millions of dollars in funding is now available to SMEs at a special low rate of 6.5%. And businesses with little or no collateral can now obtain support through our various partnerships. At NCB, we believe that every viable business should be able to access the capital they need to adapt, innovate, and grow. Life has been interrupted, but your business plans don't have to be.
Thanks very much for staying with us, and thanks very much for your feedback. We're going to get into a little bit more of those questions that you've been sending our way. I encourage you, keep sending them. But we have joining us again Vice President for Marketing, Gabriel Heron, who is going to assist me in terms of answering some of your questions. Gabriel, throwing them at you real quick. Okay. What are your anticipated outcomes from the conference, and what are the next steps? And we're getting this question from a Jamaican living in New York who is asking particularly because they want to know how they can invest.
Okay, I will speak to are the post-event activities, in essence. The main driver outcome for this event is ultimately to clearly generate investments for Jamaica. But investment is really a long conversation and process to the final implementation of our project. So this event is really the triggering of the conversation. This is where we start the conversation. And so what we really want to do is have persons be aware of all the investment opportunities available in Jamaica. So, and that's the beauty of content. And we've taken a very strategic approach to, so this live stream that we're experiencing here, this will be retooled for the next 2 to 3 months to showcase, you know, exactly the different opportunities and the discussions that were held here today and yesterday about the investment landscape in Jamaica. And also, I can't not forget to say, the B2B platform where there's a plethora of content about investing in Jamaica. And attendees can go on and register for the next month or 2 and access all that content. So it's a long conversation
starts here,
but it continues because we're now in a virtual space. So let's leverage it as much as possible.
Great. Another question we have here, how can JAMPRO help me find markets?
Okay, so this is what JAMPRO does at the core of our expertise. We market intelligence and guiding through the nuances of bureaucracy, etc. So if you're an exporter, we will help you to find the markets overseas. As it relates to locally, if you're an investor, we will help you to walk you through the regulatory processes, you know, the different government agencies. So market intelligence and nuances, business facilitation is what we do, and that element is really core to our service offering. So contact JAMPRO, that's the first thing.
Right, great. The next question, I'm not sure we have enough time to answer
That's
all
fine.
of this,
Let's
but
go.
it's from a manufacturer who wants to start exporting and they want to know how they can do this.
So the first step, of course, is to, I'll always say, to contact JAMPRO.
JAMPRO.
We have actually a very good program, just to kind of digress, but contact JAMPRO, and we will walk you through the steps of getting to become an exporter and what are the requirements, working through customs as well, of course. But we also have a program called Export Max, shifting a little bit from investments here, but a program called Export Max where we build facility, where we build business capacity for local exporters to drive exports.
So if individuals come to the table and they're not quite yet ready, you would have done the assessment and put them on a particular kind of program that's going to get them there.
That's correct. And we also, so for example, persons who want to manufacture, invest in manufacturing in Jamaica, set up a manufacturing facility, we will also help them with their export needs as well.
Okay, great. Another question we have. How do I get information on investing in Jamaica? I think I could answer that one, having been here with you all day, but no, I'm going to give you that.
Now, I will go back to, again, you know, the beauty of the content that was created for this event and for this live stream on the B2B platform and expertdobusinessjamaica.com, and plug it in again, is that it will always be there to access, and we will all be able to point to that content. So if you're interested in investing in the outsourcing sector, there's a plethora of information on the platform that one can access and really delve into the opportunities in Jamaica, getting a good whiff of the, not just the opportunities, but the landscape of each specific sector. So what we will be doing, and even to that individual that asked the question, we will be reaching out, you know, through all the attendees from the B2B platform, you know, to engage them continuously around their interest of investing in Jamaica.
Right, and that's very important because I like how you put it, that you're able to break it down in a way that it's easily digestible, easily accessed, it's all in one place, and it's information, of course, that individuals who have the interest can act on and act on easily.
I will leave with one final statement about the event, the importance and the space we live in now of content on demand. So over the next 2-3 months, the content, all the interesting and rich information will be available to anybody who is interested in investing in Jamaica on demand. So register on the Export Do Business Jamaica platform, and the content is all there for you on demand. So in your own time, you can take your time over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, walk through the content slowly, digest it all, and then contact JAMPRO. Or more than likely, we will be contacting you.
Even better. Thanks very much, Gabriel Heron, Vice President for Marketing here at JAMPRO. So exploredobusinessjamaica.com. Get there, get registered, and put yourself in a position to benefit from all this great content. The conversation starts here, but of course it continues, and we continue with more conversation on the other side of this feature.
In Jamaica, we're very serious about two things: living joyfully and striving for excellence. There are many examples of Jamaican excellence. Our athletes and musicians are some of the finest in the world. And, above all, Appleton Estate. Crafted with joy.
In this session, we're talking a little bit more about export. Now, Shillette and Don, they would have whetted their appetites a little bit about those opportunities and the potential that exists there. So if you're a business person looking to take your goods overseas, don't move just yet. Stick and stay a little bit. I have with me Roger Williams, National Coordinator, and Ricardo Durant, Manager for SPSU, to talk with us a little bit more about exports, the opportunities that are there. So tell me a little bit about the export strategy Jampro has to ensure that, services, goods, products, everything that's good and great about Jamaica gets into the overseas market.
All right. Thank you very much, Dwayne. The export is very, very important. It's part of our remit here at Jampro. Mm-hmm. So we have strategies in place for export of services and export of goods. Goods producing industry is just easy. It's goods that are made, are tangible products that you can touch and feel and see. Mm-hmm. And those from the production to the consumer take some time. And so that goes by itself. But we have strategies in place to export more and more of our goods. In terms of services now, this is where the rub comes in, because that's Jamaica, 70% of Jamaica's GDP is services.
Right.
And there are different modes that we use to get our services abroad. Mm-hmm. Now, let me give a definition first. So services is something that is intangible. It is something that you can't store. It has to be consumed immediately. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, so if someone uses as the service that you produce, a foreigner that is, right, that's seen as an export of service. Mm-hmm. And there are different modes that we utilize to get our services abroad, mm-hmm, or used by an international person. Mm-hmm. So mode one is the cross-border trading, mm-hmm, cross-border supply. Now, really that means it's similar to outsourcing. That's a perfect example. Our BPO industry is a perfect example of cross-border supply. Services produced here is consumed by an international consumer, market, right, international market. Then there's consumption here in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And a perfect example of that is the tourism industry. Right. The other one is export of commerce. So if a company establishes an overseas presence commercially, for instance, NCB may decide to set up an office somewhere in the Caribbean, that's an export of service also. Right. And then the final one is mode 4, is the movement of a physical person to go abroad to perform. So for instance, the entertainment industry is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. So those are the several modes that we have in terms of services. And we have strategies in place for all of those services. So for instance, tourism, mm-hmm, the business process outsourcing, which Roger will talk more about that. Mm-hmm. Film, animation, entertainment, all of those industries.
Ricardo makes it sound easy, Roger. But is it as easy as Ricardo has presented it? I mean, I want to get my services.
It's fairly easy. But
reassure me further. Or is Roger just...
Well, Dwayne, Jampro makes it look easy. That's the first thing I'll say. But I'll speak specifically to outsourcing, because that's the area that I focus on. Right. So Jampro in 2015, thereabouts, had developed a 5-year strategy to significantly grow the outsourcing business in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And that strategy was largely successful because at the time we were had about 14,000 people employed directly to the sector.
That's right.
And the target was to double that within 5 years. Well, at the end of 5 years, we were past double that. We're at about 33,000. So there's a new 5-year strategy that will take us from 2020 to 2025 that we're looking to move to 50,000 employees. Now, the strategy has evolved over time. Initially, we were just focused on trying to leverage primarily our nearshore advantages to provide a lower cost outsourcing solution to primarily plants in North America. But over time, we have evolved to be targeting higher value added services. And it's not just about cost, it's about value. How can Jamaica provide not just the talent, but the insight to partner with organizations to provide higher value added services? And that 5-year strategy is one that we are in the midst of deploying now. So it's not just about nearshore advantages, it's about specific industries, specific services that we're going to target, and the ecosystem to evolve to support that, primarily on the infrastructure for digital and for talent development, human capital development.
I know you said it's a strategy dating 2020 that will take us up to 2025. I know we're probably just about a year in. How are we looking? Quick temperature check. And would the events of the last 2 years would have impacted that?
Again, for outsourcing, very good. So we are at about 44,000 employees now. So we're going to hit that 50,000.
So you need a new 5-year strategy.
we need to move the goalpost a little bit. It's a good problem to have, but we should hit the 50,000 by next year. Right. So well ahead of the 2025.
Wow. Well, Ricardo, let me take it back to you. On the good side, how do we ensure that, in export that we're delivering on that kind of quality that will ensure that, even more, will be going out?
All right. So we have several projects in place to manage the goods produced in this area. We have a YAM strategy. We have a manufacturing strategy. I'm pretty sure I heard Metri speak about that.
Yes.
And we have programs that we run on a yearly basis to export more and more. So we just completed, I manage a group of 50 companies in the various sector, MSME sectors. And that entire program is to develop the enterprises and to get them into markets. So it's called Export Max. So we have food manufacturing, non-food manufacturing, services and creative industries. We help them with capacity building, we help them with mentorship and advocacy, and we help them to research and find those markets, and we take them into market. So we conduct missions. In 2020, we had to do less of that because of COVID, but we found ways to pivot. So we went online, and we have found databases that we can pitch to persons, distributors abroad. We pitch to them, and they consume our product, or they buy our products. The other thing we just completed recently is Expo Jamaica, virtual B2B. Now, the market is used to Expo as a physical event every 2 years. We missed last year because of COVID, but this year we decided we'll try B2B, and that has worked out very well so far. Just completed in early October, in October 27th, actually. And the numbers are looking good so far. So for the portfolio of companies that I manage on Export Max, we had 19 companies participating. They had 58 meetings. They had 6 orders on the spot, and a lot of follow-ups in terms of people wanting samples, they want another meeting, or things like that. So
have you seen in recent years any kind of change in demand from the overseas market as it relates to exports from Jamaica?
It's just been increasing. Yes, so there is. If you look at what they call non-traditional products, you can see that year on year it is increasing. And this is the part that Jampo drives, the non-traditional exports, like the yams and the coffee and the...
Recently added mango.
Mango, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I heard Marlene talking about that yesterday. Right, so that's another, and we want to do more and more of that. So it has been increasing.
Coming back to Mr. Overachiever, Roger here. From your standpoint and the sector that you work within, what's the demand looking like? Not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of the type of service and the quality of service.
That's a great question, Dwayne. As I said earlier, when Jamaica started out on its, I guess, upward trajectory of maybe 15 years ago, we have been known for mainly customer service, that voice support. And over time, as the industry has changed and clients' needs have changed, we have evolved as well. We're still very strong in customer support, but we're focusing now on more complex customer support, more complex products, using technology tools to help to augment that support. But in new services now, we're looking at expertise we're getting a reputation in finance and accounting, HR admin services. We're even looking at, in our strategy, going on 5 years, we're looking at digital content management, market research. We have companies that do shared services, back office here, that provide proposal writing services. So it's customer care is going to be, for the foreseeable future, at the core. But there are adjacent higher value-added services that are growing very rapidly.
What I also hear you saying, Roger, is that some markets that usually enjoy, probably a bullish reign on some of these services are we likely to see in the outlook a shift from some of those markets to Jamaica as we strengthen and as we retool and we build capacity for some of those technological, fintech, and all those other services that you would have just mentioned?
Yes, in fact, the pandemic was a double-edged sword for the sector as well, as it was for many sectors, where the initial challenge, of course, was this contraction, as the world kind of tried to figure out what was happening.
Right.
And then shortly after that, we realized that there were new needs that came up as a result of trying to cope with the pandemic. And in addition to that, Jamaica responded very well compared to other jurisdictions. So some clients were moving their services from those jurisdictions to Jamaica because they had to just keep their own clients and customers satisfied. So that created new opportunities for us. So we contracted initially by about 7,000 jobs, but by the end of the year we had regained that and moved further. So the growth in some of those higher value-added services that I mentioned, a lot of that catalyst for that growth came from the pandemic, and organizations just saying, look, let's try this in Jamaica because we're not getting the capacity in other jurisdictions. And we stepped up to the plate, and we have been thriving since.
Right. Roger spoke about the bounce back and the quick turnaround that we would have been able to witness in Jamaica. From your standpoint, Ricardo, what do you think are some of those, for want of a better word, foundation principles that we have operated on, that you at JAMPRO have particularly, emphasized and not compromised on, that has made that kind of recovery that we're seeing, much faster, perhaps, than many would have even imagined?
The foundation principle that we operate on is preparation. So get your goods. You have to validate the product that you're selling. Get it certified. Very, very important. It doesn't make sense to try to export a product that is not wanted in the market that it's going to.
Right.
So it may need to be HACCP certified by the Food and Drug Administration of the USA. There's good manufacturing practices. And the other principle is to test the market. So once you send a few products out and there's strong demand, you can see the demand happening, then you can scale up and you can get into market. Some of the things that we have done under the program that I manage, Export Max, is find financing for our exporters. It's a problem for them, but it's with our partnership with the Exim Bank and Carbine Capital Investments, where they finance your production. They literally finance you. If you need to get raw material to produce a particular product for an export market, then they will finance your production.
That's great.
And that's a big movement. That's a big shift, and it's driving the numbers up and up and up. Let me just put in a plug for our other services exporters. There are opportunities in the professional sectors, the architects and the management and consultants, and people like those, that there is an opportunity under the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreement that we have with Europe, for them to export those services, research, technical information that they need to give. So there's an opportunity there also.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. What I pick up from you is that there's really no limitation If you thought this was an area the world is not interested in, think again.
Yes,
there is a market there, and if there isn't a market there, Roger and Ricardo, they will definitely help you in terms of identifying one. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing in quite interesting and exciting results we're seeing there. Another interesting and exciting topic comes up on the other side of this break. It's the creative economy, and we will be seeing what's happening over there.
Grown in the foothills of Jamaica, shared with the world, made with real love and passion, the gift of flavor that you love. We made real good jerk so you can make something great. Turn up the flavor with Grace Jerk Seasoning. Enjoy real Jamaican jerk.
Hi, I'm already grinning ear to ear because it's an exciting topic we have coming up. It's the orange economy. And if you look at your network of friends, family currently, you're likely to find a creative. You're likely to find an actor, a musician, a writer, perhaps the next YouTube, or what's in now, Marissa? TikTok. The next TikTok sensation is probably there. But the orange economy is witnessing quite a growth. I'm going to get somebody to help you. But the orange economy is witnessing a growth in recent years, and we want to explore that in this discussion. Growing Jamaica's creative economy with Marissa Benin. She's National Director of the Creative and Cultural Industries Council of the Ministry of Culture. Marissa, welcome.
Thank you.
TikTok. We're going to get you on it.
No.
But the orange economy, overstated or perhaps not enforced enough. What are your thoughts on that?
That's an easy answer. Not enforced enough. I mean, the creative economy for me is where infinite opportunity exists.
Yes.
And if you do any kind of research, just a quick Google search, we all know what's the value, what it's worth, the opportunities. One of the sectors that would have survived any kind of financial crisis, even if you do any research and you look at oil crisis and everything, the creative industries has been one of those who, really managed to pivot before COVID. We've been pivoting, and COVID has created a lot of opportunities for creatives.
Is that too because crisis means content? And I really listen to these creatives, and everything they do is they're thinking content.
Yes.
If I'm an actor,
Yes.
if I'm an musician and entertainer, I'm just going out for dinner, I'm thinking content. And it's quite beautiful.
Content is similar
witness.
to the word that we use every day, pivot.
Yes.
Yes, because we're pivoting with the content, eh?
Right.
So there's an opportunity everywhere. It doesn't matter, as you said, it doesn't matter where you're going, what you're doing. We find an opportunity to make content and to share that content and to make sure that content that you are sharing is being consumed. Because if it's not being consumed, you know what that means. Then that's where we have the issue with the value.
And that's what I was coming to next. How do we ensure that it's not just content that we share, consume, enjoy, but how do we ensure that our creatives get to monetize this as well? And tell me a little bit about what the ministry has been doing.
So that is really multifaceted in terms of what needs to happen. What I want to say off the bat is that the new content creators, the ministry is extremely proud of them. They are making their way, whether the ministry or the government intervenes or not. And that is why now we are actually reaching out to them through the NCCIC. Essentially, NCCIC, the working name is actually Jamaica Creative, which is in line with Creative Canada, Creative London, Creative South Africa. So that is the working name. The NCCIC is a long name that we generally will not use. All our paraphernalia that's coming out shortly will say Jamaica Creative. For me, in terms of monetizing, there are lots of discussions that need to happen. People always say that we need to do research, but I do believe that this era is well researched. What needs to happen, frankly, is just really implementation. And the fact is, implementation has started inadvertently, whether by creatives themselves
or doing things. What we need to do is communicate more, fill the gaps, and do not try so much to reinvent the wheel. So for me, and my mandate, and I say this in my sleep now since July 1, we have to create paths of progression for our creatives. And not necessarily sometimes it will not be in a check, it will not be in a grant, because nothing that the government can give you financially right now will ever be enough. But I do believe that the government ought to create paths of progression for our creatives, whether it is to facilitate financial structures for them through public-private partnerships. So we have to now start communicating with the financial institutions, communicating with the creatives themselves. And truth be told, there are lots of creative entities that are doing well, that are formalized, that are paying their taxes, that are doing business locally and internationally. And we are now going to communicate with them more by, if I can use this opportunity, our first big moment will be our Creative Career Expo, where we literally use creative entrepreneurs who are successful, and we pair them with university students, and we're also showcasing them to high school students from 3rd to 6th form to say, if it is that you want to be a creative, it doesn't necessarily mean the man with the mic in front of you. There are so many tentacles to it, and those other tentacles are quite successful, financially successful, because at the end of the day, I think sometimes we are shy in discussing finances, we're shy in discussing money. And I think my generation, we're different. We are very proud of discussing money. We're very brave in discussing, this is what I want to happen, this is what I want to earn. And I'm using that opportunity as a creative myself to reach out. So that is what I've been trying to do quietly, because, I'm not going to do any big announcements. You will see it, you will feel us, but as a starter, we are now in the midst of finding a way to create paths of progression for our creatives.
And that's very important, because I find sometimes that individuals know they're talented, they know they have a particular quality, that je ne sais quoi, that it factor, but they're not really sure how to manage that it factor. So creating these spaces either through the expo or otherwise, I really love to hear that you can put them on that particular path and create a framework, structures, and guidance.
And it's important that we create a space where they see persons who they can aspire to. Okay, this person is the head of this agency. I want to work at that agency, and you must have a reason to want to do that. I want to build this thing, and you must have a reason. But creating, lessening the gaps to say, okay, you're here, we can get you here, and that is how I want to view the things. It's just that I'm not into this discussion about what is the government going to give me, when am I going to get this grant, when am I going to get this check, and I think, we ought to be facilitating. Have you registered your business? Are you paying any taxes?
To ensure
how is your structure? Are you a part of any association? And that also helps. I always think that we as a government need to do better in terms of communicating. That I think for me that would shift the needle in such a positive direction. How we communicate and how we try to facilitate the various aspirations of our creatives.
One of the things in recent years I would say benefit, creatives, the orange economy is technology, social media in particular.
Let me tell you.
Everybody now has a platform upon which, I can barely sing, but I'm going to get my YouTube channel and I'm going to do my thing. What kind of impact has that had on it? And how would you even encourage individuals who perhaps may think, that's enough for me, I'm original, to even capitalize on that?
It's funny, I do not even think those persons who would, 10, 15 years ago would not go in that direction. I don't even think they have a choice anymore. It's either you're on it or you're not. And if you're not, you are going to be left behind. I do not know any content creator. I do not know, any creative right now. They may not be on all the platforms, but they are there and they are trying. And the bottom line is we still have to just encourage and find ways to reach them. Every day I hear of a new creative,
And we are supposed to encourage them. We are supposed to communicate with them. We are supposed to point them in direction that will move the needle in a positive direction. So I mean, I think it's fairly useful. I think the Jamaicans, they are out there.
Great.
Whether they're all doing great is another thing, but I think they're there.
We think of economic growth and we start probably immediately think of the traditional areas. We think about tourism, we think of manufacturing. What roles do you believe the orange economy play in driving economic growth?
I'm going to inject a word in that sentence and say what role the creative economy should play or ought to, even stronger.
Right.
I really believe that there should be a stronger synergy between tourism and the creative industries. I sometimes believe we're in two different lanes at times. And the bottom line is, and I may get into trouble, but I do not believe that majority of persons who come here are coming for sand and sea. You have sand and sea in the desert in Dubai. People are creating it themselves. And I really believe people are here for our culture, our unique culture. And, we should not continue to deny it, and whether that is inadvertent or not, I actually believe that there should be stronger synergy. It happens, but I think we are way behind in terms of how grand it can be and how much more we can benefit with a partnership with tourism and culture, and that's one of my major assignments, to make sure that we are working closer. This whole concept of joint up government has to happen with the culture and creative industries in the center, because this particular sector touches and concerns so many different facets, so many different ministries, so many different areas. So I think it's really important that we have a solid partnership going forward.
Thank you very much, Marisa, and I wish you all the best on that partnership, that marriage between tourism and culture, and giving even greater rise to the creative and orange economy in Jamaica. Thank you very much.
And thanks for having me.
Best. And from that discussion, we are going to segue into another one, film and music. But before that, let's take a look at this feature.
Come here. Talk to your Uncle Brendan when him come. Promise me?
Promise. Mommy?
My boss can't be late.
Take care of the canoe, and the canoe will always look after you.
So, you're going to tell your Uncle Brendan what happened?
No.
Nothing. Nothing is the most dangerous thing known to man. Kill more people than cancer, corona, or even gunshot. The only cure for nothing is to talk.
To who? God?
To him, to pastor, barmaid, mother, father, no matter. But if you don't talk, it will fester inside you and turn to something. If nothing don't kill you, something will.
Since when you start break promise? Eh? Brendan say, won't talk to him, and you don't want to sell the canoe. How you expect us to survive, Omi? You don't see what the sea do us already? Everything bad that happened to us is the sea do it. The whole village think we curse. Is the sea do it. You stop talk. You never smile again. Is the sea do it.
It's not the sea, Mommy. It's me.
What? What you talking about?
My fault, Daddy. It's my fishing must catch you. Because I wasn't strong enough. I tried to help him, but him slip and fall. And I wasn't quick enough to save him.
It's not your fault fisherman drowned. It's because him couldn't swim.
No. It's him teach me. Why him lie? Why? He say everybody underwater must know how to swim. Everybody him say. Everybody except him. Why him lie?
Him never lie, Omi. Him just trying.
No, you try selling the canoe without asking me. It's my own too.
Omi. I was mad with worry. Every time fisherman go out, knowing that him couldn't swim. Him never lied to you, Omi. Him just never want to admit that him have a weakness. Him ashamed. Stubborn old fool. Always used to say, you look after the canoe, the canoe look after you.
Uncle Brendan's people pay good money for a canoe like this. That's what the canoe look after you means. Never want to talk to nobody else.
And I should have listened sooner.
If you're an avid movie watcher, or even if you're not, if you just casually watch TV, you would see the black, green, and gold, or some monument, some symbol that screams Jamaica at you. And that's because Jamaica is large when it comes on to film, music, and animation. But don't take my word for it. I'm going to be talking a little bit with Renee Robinson, manager for film, animation, and music here at Jamper, for an overview of the sector, some of the happenings, and some of the opportunities that exist. Renee, welcome.
Thank you.
I have a
so
bone to
much.
pick with you. I wanted to be in the James Bond film.
You
what
can
happened?
act? I don't know. You can act?
I mean, I just wanted to be in it. just give me a nice pan.
Well, it was actually, I'm going to be honest, it was the highlight of my career as Film Commissioner of the country.
Wow.
And it's something that we're all very, very proud of. And it took a long time to organize. So we worked with the Ministry of Culture. I saw Marissa was here earlier.
Yes.
We also had support with the Ministry of Tourism and with our partners at Industry. And it really took us, we went through that entire scope of getting the project to come here and then doing we had a task force that we set up with all of the heads of agencies to make sure that the process was really smooth. And then, of course, bar none, the work that was done by the local production team and everybody who worked on the production. We just did the launch a little while ago,
yes,
and we're all very proud.
We have a rich history of that, though. Large film productions, production companies, artists coming to Jamaica. G-Jam in Portland easily comes to mind as a place for, you know, persons to come and do recordings. Why do you think that's so?
You said it earlier. There's a je ne sais quoi about what we're doing here in Jamaica. But I think one of the things that really stands out for us is that we have the crews on hand. They are deeply trained, highly professional, and we have a strong reputation for being able to deliver those types of projects. And so even though, you know, we're a little bit with Talawa,
yes,
and so we find that there's a lot of large-scale productions and small-scale productions as well that are coming to Jamaica. They're looking for the locations. They're looking for that brand Jamaica. There's something about our cultural economy that is adding value into their project. But we've also been seeing more recently that there's a greater global demand for this type of culturally specific but universally viable project. So we're seeing that starting to come out, and people are actually demanding what's happening in the Caribbean from a cultural perspective.
And what I'm also seeing as a viewer is more authenticity. Usually, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. You see a representation of Jamaica and you go, no, that don't seem too authentic. But now we're actually seeing Jamaicans we know. I can say, oh, but that is, you know, playing the role of Jamaicans, you know, in films, productions, etc. Does that speak to the work that has been done through the work of Jamper to ensure that we are ready to take advantage of these opportunities when they come?
It is part of it. It is definitely part of it. I mean, there's the two sides. On the one hand, we want to be able to invite and attract productions to come here. But on the other hand, and this has probably been one of the parts of the role that is of that really speaks to me the most and that I feel the most fulfilled by is that we actually are galvanizing and mobilizing local content. And we're putting that work in to develop a local production ecosystem, which is going to be robust and mature, and that we're able to make sure that people are able to earn money from the work that they're doing and to be able to do it in a way that does speak to that authenticity and that Jamaica-ness that you can't find anywhere else. We want to be able to put that on screen, and not just in screen-based projects, but in all of our creative economy as well. So that design embed from the Jamaican psyche that goes into our creative content, it really is something that, you know, that we do push for, and it's a balance between the facilitation for the international projects and the development for the local ones.
And tell me a little bit about some of the programs on the ground that you would have been pioneering and engineering to ensure that we're delivering.
Absolutely. So there's one of the programs that's most known and beloved is JAFTA Propeller. And that's a project that we've done with JAFTA, which is the Jamaica Film and TV Association. We've been doing this with them for the past maybe 5 years, I think now. And what it is, it's a talent talent discovery program to identify 5 filmmakers per year. We identify them, they get training in script development, in production management, they actually receive some funds to go into production, and then once those projects are finished, it's all shorts, once those projects are finished, and then we take them to market. So that's the one that most people are familiar with. So we have about 15 short films that have now come through the JAFTA Propeller program.
Wow.
But we also have programs and talent discovery initiatives that happen for feature films. So we do the Feature Film Lab with the British Council and with JAFTA. We did the BOSS program, which is the Business of Sustainability of Studios, which is for the animation industry. And so that was kind of like a mini MBA. So we were trying to really bring in that core heavy business skill set into a studio executive, because, you know, we know that people know how to do their actual craft, the actual technicality of it. So we're not teaching them about animation or teaching them about film production. We're teaching them about how to run a business. Which is totally. And so, you know, we've had the BOSS program. We are developing a program right now for the music industry. So there's these types of initiatives. We also do an export readiness program with UKTP. So there's a variety of initiatives. They all kind of focus on identifying high potential talent, making sure that they have content that can be investment ready and commercially viable, and then giving them the skills and the toolkits and all of the resources that they need in order to do their best work.
What has the reception been like? What's the feedback?
It really has been, it's been very astounding. I would say that before COVID, so before pandemic, we were attending maybe about 6 international markets per year. So this would be, we'd go to Cannes, to Durban, to Berlin, to Toronto, to, you know, Sundance and South by Southwest, and we'd bring a national delegation. And so we were attending various, you know, film festivals and markets throughout the year. And I can point to within my tenure here, there has definitely been a shift in the conversation. So when we go into markets, at first it used to be, what are your tax incentives? How can I come to Jamaica? And in recent years, we're starting to hear people say, where can I watch Jamaican content? How can I tap into this? How can I connect with Jamaicans who are working in this field? So there's a shift in language. And you know, whenever there's a shift in language and shift in conversation, it's something else that's underlying that.
True.
The demand is there. The global demand is there.
Great. And speaking of global demand, one of the big wins for me this year is tuning into Good Morning America and seeing Shaggy, Sean Paul and Spice, you know, performing not on the GMA stage, but from Jamaica. What were some of the other big wins for you from where you sit? That may have missed some of us.
No, there's been a lot that has been happening in the music industry, and I really do have to give some kudos. I mean, I know that we've seen a lot happening with, you know, Protégé and Sean Paul and Shaggy, and, you know, I can't even start to call all of the names because I'm going to forget people. But, you know, even something, Shensia signing her overseas management, you know, those kinds of things. That is what is changing the way that we do business in the music industry. This is in Jamaica, but I'm going to give a little props to I think he's in Barbados, Halik Maul, who is now he has been selling his work using NFTs. So using blockchain and cryptocurrency, and has gotten the equivalent of $235,000 from selling 4 tracks of his album using NFTs on the on Ledger. So all of these things are happening in the region, and you know, we're starting to see people are embedding more technology into their work. We're getting greater exposure to international management. Touring, I'm not so sure to what extent that's still happening so much right now, but we really are taking advantage of the digital opportunities.
So you can drop your own EP anytime you're ready.
Yeah, man.
You don't necessarily have to be waiting to be signed to a big studio or anything like that. One of the newer and more emerging elements of all this nexus of music and film and TV is animation. Have you seen that taken off really in Jamaica, and taken off in a way that you think, we're ready to start exporting this kind of content too?
It's interesting. I think animation serves a couple of purposes. So on the one hand, we're looking at animation and digital industries as a whole, so digital creativity as a whole. We're looking at that as a way of employing young people. You know, there's the digital savvy. These are very new types of jobs, but there's a savvy that is in our young people to access them. But there's also that combination of art and creativity. And so it's not just about being able to manage the software, but you also need to be able to draw and design and craft and all of those kinds of things as well. So we're seeing it from both the art perspective and from the software and the technology perspective, and the combination is in the animation industry. So in the past couple of years, there has been a lot of activity developing the animation industry and putting money and resources and support from multilaterals as well. So we had a program that was funded by the World Bank through the Office of the Prime Minister called the Youth Employment in Digital and Animated Industries Program. And it was massive. It was like multi-year donor funds, and we identified 20 companies, 20 Jamaican animation studios that were a part of this BOSS program that I had mentioned. And we took them to France. We went to MIPCOM. We went to Kidscreen. You know, the opportunity was there for them to start putting their time and their work and their visibility internationally.
I want to come back to something you said earlier, which I really love. It's this changing face of film, of music, of animation that gone are the days where I think if I'm not in front of the camera or I'm in front of the microphone, I'm not making money. But there are a whole set of other professions, probably new lines of business that exist behind the scenes and have emerged behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And tell me now about the work you're now doing in terms of ensuring that the next brand and the next generation of creatives are aware that, hey, don't limit yourself. So what if you can't sing? So what if you can't act? You know, you can still be in the industry and in a very profitable way too.
Well, and the key thing that has happened, and this is very recent, is the rise of virtual production. You know, and so we've actually had one of our Jamaican post-production studios has been editing for Netflix. You know, so there's the virtual production landscape has totally changed the level of opportunities that are possible. And we're starting to see companies that are actually stepping into that and making that happen. So I think there's a real, there's a real opportunity out there for people to start shifting the way we think about the type of work that we do. So it doesn't have to follow traditional linear lines anymore, but we are actually very heavily stepping into digital technologies. We're stepping into crypto. We're stepping into blockchain. We're stepping into virtual production. And these are the types of opportunities and career progression paths that are available, and that we just need to start opening our minds and getting access to them.
And how do you facilitate that access here at JAMPRO? I'm listening, you Renee, I'm watching, and I'm like, yeah, she's connecting with me. I'm feeling her. How do I take the next step?
Well, the next steps are definitely through some of the programs that we offer. So we do open calls, and all of the programs, it's transparent selection. So we open call to the public. They submit, there's the criteria, it's independently selected, and those persons who are now participating in those annual cohorts go through a series of, whether it's business training or different types of skill set. We help them to develop their business or their product, and then we actually start connecting them to business opportunities, both locally and internationally. So that's the first layer of how to actually step into some of these things. I think it's really important for people to become a part of their industry association. It is through these associations that you actually get access to these types of opportunities. So I really do need to encourage, and I have to give massive kudos to JAFTA, JAN, JARIA, JFM, the various industry associations that are out there, because it is through these entities that we're actually able to target and to bring these opportunities to the various professionals that are out there. And then the other thing that is really important as well, formalization in business is super important, because without that, we're not going to be able to advance these projects.
Right.
And then finally, you know, we actually do some work with some of the tertiary institutions to make sure that the curriculum development is one that brings graduates that are ready for the labor market.
Right. And one of the things I just learned recently, that, you know, digital production is now a subject at the CAPE level, and that was really, really heartwarming to hear. Thank you very much, Renee Robinson, manager for film, animation, and music here at JAMPRO. Renee, I can't sing, I can't act, but you win me over. I think I need to be a part of this. Good. You know, and at about this time, I'm going to be sending you over to a discussion now underway. It's on investing in cannabis. That discussion has already started. Let's check in and see what's happening there.
You're starting to see, you know, like these countries, and it's not only for medical, it's recreational, right? Jamaica, we've surpassed, and we're at certain categories. But if you look at 35% to 45% of revenues from any other dispensary that you have to benchmark to raise money has edibles as a class, right? And all of those edibles in all of those states are not FDA approved. Has a warning on the label that it says not approved by the FDA, you know, and et cetera, and you have a certain warnings. We're moving that way, but you know, 3 years later, you're looking at where 45% of it is, and you talk about the elderly, the young people coming into the market. It's not typical smokers. The typical smokers of the hippies and that kind of market is not really for it. Right now, when you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee. You're not having a cup of coffee to go to bed. You wake up in the morning to have an espresso, to have a macchiato, to have a little buzz. The same reason, if I don't want to have caffeine every day, why couldn't I pick up my sativa pen and do it the same way? You're going to find out the same thing as edibles come online in the consumer beverage line. And you see companies like ResRep and Diageo and these different companies start to look at it and say, what is it going to be like? Because when I go out at night, if I smoke a joint, I'm drinking 2 less drinks. And the more I can feel the same way, it's the feeling that I want to feel, and the spend and the energy and everything else that goes with it. So you're going to find a correlation between, you know, drinking and the beverage companies, and you're going to start to see a difference of saying, okay, no, we're a part of this market and it should be inclusive. When would be the day that we have, you know, a CBD red stripe? You know, when is going to be the day that thing wakes up? When is going to be the day that Jamaica producer says we're going to do this? And you start to look at real conglomerates around Jamaica, and then you know, you have to let the elephant out in the room. Why are none of these companies coming into it, and why is it not where you're jumping on board yet? Because there's no prospectus coming from your bank that can make it easy for you because of banking. But same thing to like Alexandra, there are fundamental changes that are happening in the US, and we've seen it go to the lowest end, and you're starting to see it going up. And the possibility of banking and federal regulations are, you know, in the limelight, and it's not this mystique in a Star Wars film. It is actually right there in the forefront. The valuation of any company overnight of being present and being operational and doing business and going through the pain that we go through for 5-7 years or 10 years will be worth it. Now, who are the people? You know, it's, you know, you have to bet on the industry, you have to build it. You know, look at the panel we have today. You have 2 Jamaican companies on your panel within a JAMPRO event of JAMPRO Invest, where, you know, it's sad to say, but we had 4 of the biggest Canadian, you know, companies that came to Jamaica, had a bad experience, could not compete or could not last against the best Jamaican, and had to step away. You know, we know what we're doing here. We know how to operate in a third world country. We know how to operate in Caribbean countries. And I promise you, it will make money. And any investor that invests will see multiples on their money compared to any other industry that's out there.
I'm happy you said that. And I'm going to ask Alexandra to weigh in here as well. I mean, so I know that there are challenges in the sector. I know that there are some things that we need to deal with. There are some hurdles that we need to get over. But as far as the future outlook of the sector is concerned, where are some of the areas do you see opportunities lie for us as a country? I know that we're doing some things around research and development and so on. But as we look to the future, what are some of the areas that you think that we should be focusing on as a country? So Alexandra can start, and then we get back to you, Balram.
Sure.
Look, you know, I think that we should focus on the areas that we're good at, right? And, you know, I think there's still work to be done there. But we should absolutely focus on areas that we're good at. And I think around, you know, personally, I'd like to see us really hone in and get a little bit more formal in protecting Jamaican cannabis, protecting whether it's geographical indicators, just protecting the intellectual it produced in Jamaica. Because, you know, as long as the road may feel ahead of us, you know, in this industry, it's also quite quickly coming. And, you know, we've seen companies try to leverage the Jamaican name, you know, Marley Naturals, and, you know, try to leverage that into the United States, but it's not authentic, right? To truly be authentically Jamaican, you need to be producing in Jamaica, right? The product needs to have a Jamaican element to really back it and be behind it. And we're living in a world where consumers are not stupid, right? We have the internet now. They're much more engaged in, you know, quality of product. You know, we produce organic cannabis. We produce it in a sustainable way. These are qualities that we believe consumers care about. And fundamentally, I think it's important that, you know, that Jamaica starts to protect that which it is valuable, right? And that is Jamaican ganja produced in Jamaica, just like the Champagne region did for the producers there. And I think that that's something that, you know, as entrepreneurs and businesses, we're going to continue to strive ahead, but we need that protection and that support. I think another thing is we need to be brave, right? You know, there's an element of bravery that needs to happen now. You know, you've watched, as Bali said, like, countries legalizing not just medical but recreational, right? You know, sandwiched around the United States is Canada, that's recreationally legal, Mexico, that also passed. You know, you've got Belgium and Uruguay and many other countries that are going in that way. You know, and I know there's an argument it's a violation of international treaty, but there's many countries that are doing that. And, you know, United States, it's certainly one of those places. So to be brave, and we have to call a spade, say, I'm to legalize. You know, that is the direction that is going to make a lot of things easy. But as Bali said, there is an elephant in the room. Sounds like I might have it on. Yeah. There is the elephant in the room, which is banking. And it's not really in the control until we see movement that happens in the US. And I think we're starting to see that, as he mentioned. So, you know, we know that that is one of the dominoes that's going to make a lot of investors more comfortable, and at that point money will flow, not just from corporates but from privates, from venture, from private equity. They're just going to get a lot more comfortable, and they've been waiting in the wings. I think it's the brave investors and entrepreneurs that have come out early that will see those benefits and have said, I believe in this industry, I believe in these entrepreneurs, I believe in this company, and I'm going to back it early, and I'm going to take advantage of what that means to invest early. And that takes an element of bravery. I don't believe that we've seen today, and Bali, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've seen the federal government make an example of any investor who's invested in this space, you know, and said, hey, can't do that, and you know, we're going to freeze all your assets. It's never happened. And, you know, billions has been invested in this space to date across the world. So, you know, I think it is for the brave to invest now or wait when everybody starts jumping in.
Yeah. You know what? I'm happy that we're having this conversation because I was just thinking about it while you were talking about how we need to protect the Jamaican brand and so on. And it's not as though we have not done it before. We have done it with our Blue Mountain coffee, right? So we can do the same thing with our ganja. And so, Balram, back to you. I mean, you know, how do you see the future? Where are the opportunities? How do you feel about the future as far as the cannabis sector is concerned?
I mean, you have to, I mean, the industry is rated on players. I mean, you know, being the leading player in the market, you know, and putting the pain in investment, you have to see what the finish line looks like. What does the finish line look like? What is the comparables of you and the investors that invest in you, and what do you want to achieve? You know, for us to continue, you know, of this, you know, it's going to take a pattern. You know, we're the only company 5 years audited with ganja. We had the first filings of the first trademark with the word ganja in Jamaica. You start looking on protection of IPs, of having 22 different IPs. You start doing a franchise where you can take your brand outside of Jamaica to Uruguay and open your brand, and it stands and does well during the pandemic. Right. And then you start looking, and there is value outside of the typical weed play. If you look at my business, and I have a retail complex from my non-medicinal to my medicinal areas to my franchise to my online. My pillar is not broken by one thing, and that's why the pandemic didn't have a hit on me like how it had at different industries. So you have to see there is value. And with this, we just announced our JV, which, our future is looking at going onto the US market, which is legal, and from the US market to cross-list into the Canadian market, that doing a dual listing. By doing that, we give the opportunity, because of the rules between Jamaica, to come back to Jamaica, where you can go to Mayberry or you could go to GMMB and you can do the dual exchange. And my 18-month plan, which I'm already on, will complete that proposition, or it could be less. So while that's going on and building out Jamaica and the Caribbean and South America, the brand is applicable in the US and other countries through that model. But now we have a greater room for expansion. How many companies didn't do well? How many farms are going to go bust?
Right.
How many new retail locations are going to open up? Which companies are going to partner and merge versus trying to compete against a different player? Which ones? All of these questions are going to start coming into the open, as the blood starts to run into the market. But there is a real business, and you got to stick to it. But having access to the capital market and the pool out there to grow, as you want to grow projects, because just as quick as, I did weed, my shareholders are saying, Bally, how much time are you dedicating to mushrooms? That's a legal commodity that, all the other ones are going. So, weed was the sexiest girl in the room, a few years ago. Right now, there's going to be a different one. You have to have a balanced portfolio, but this is all third wave new industries that are all going to come out to it. The minute that we could do a partnership of that drink or that stuff that could be exported to 164 countries, you're talking real money. The distributions are in place. So, stick, like as you said, focus on what you can do, focus what you don't try to take on the whole part. There is so many, there's so many products that you could do. From chocolates to beverages to CBD, not going THC, variety of patches, the market's completely open. We haven't even touched, not even 25%.
I agree with you 100%, Bally. And, I've heard the word the elephant in the room mentioned a couple of times, and we're getting ready to wrap. But I would love to hear from you guys how it is that you're dealing with the banking challenges associated with the sector.
Banking is just like that. It's a fragile situation. We cannot bank anything to do with anything marijuana related. That's completely illegal. You cannot deposit. You cannot do any banking and stuff like that. Our non-medicinal entities, T-shirts, pizzas, anything is a different thing. Any bank will touch any of those entities or normal operating business that operate in the normal rules that follow every single rule. But you start to deal with a lot of cash. And, the fact that we're growing so fast, we use our cash, thank God, so, we're building constantly, we're building out our farms, and expansion is doing it, but there's going to be a certain time, there's going to be a surplus of revenue surplus. And we're hoping the banking regulations and the digital currency and the pilot projects being done right now will facilitate us to do transactions, at least in Jamaican dollars, if not US dollars.
Yeah. And I suspect that they are working on it. The authorities are working on it. Alexandria, what has your experience been in that area?
Yeah, not dissimilarly. As Bally said, we're in a growth phase, and our growth phase obviously is in medical cannabis, but as well and on the hemp side, which is a lot easier to deal with, and accessories. So we're in that phase now. And again, it's about being creative with regards to structures, as creative as you can be. It makes life a lot harder on a finance team, but you walk the lines that you can walk, and then it all kind of works out. It's going to be interesting now that we're, our 2022 growth plan is continuing here in Jamaica, but really laser focused now on the United States, as well as Europe. And so, we have to be cognizant of, not spreading ourselves too thinly, because, there are lots of opportunities. And certainly, you can't take everything on yourself, right? And so finding the right partners is a really big deal for us, and being really smart about investment partners, international partners that believe in the vision that we have. And not compromising on quality. We're really committed to producing the finest quality cannabis, and that's going to need to hold true to any partner that we work with. So it's a journey, but it's a journey we continue to be really excited about.
And I'm happy that you're on that journey. And the last question I have for you guys is this: what would you say to an investor that is looking at Jamaica's cannabis industry right now? I mean, would you say Jamaica is investable? Would you encourage them to come to Jamaica and get involved in the sector?
Yeah, look, I mean, absolutely. I think just like any investment, you've got to
have a more mature market. You can see years of actual data. Sorry about.
Hi there. Sorry.
Yes, I'm not sure what just took place, but you were saying, Alexandra, yes, you would be happy.
Yeah, I was saying that, just like any investment, I think first you have to believe in the sector.
Right, you're
sector going to be big.
I can't.
And if you're able to answer that, then that is, that's a tick in the box. We believe in the sector. The sector is proven to be big in other markets. Do you believe that Jamaican cannabis has a rightful place? Absolutely. I think you're living under a rock if you don't recognize that. And then do you believe in the entrepreneur and the team, right? Because my experience as an entrepreneur and as an investor, it's all about the people and the people who you're backing. And do you believe that they have what it takes? And do they have the experience? So, I think if you can do all those three things, then yeah, this is an absolutely great opportunity to invest. And there are other areas, not just brand building, but Jamaica needs more labs. Jamaica needs more manufacturing in this space. So no, there's opportunity. Absolutely, it is a small island. Like, make no mistake, it does get a little bit crowded. So but I think that there's still Greenland.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alexandra. Bale, I'm not sure if you were hearing us earlier, but the questions that I was raising was, what would you say to investors that are looking at Jamaica's cannabis industry? Would you encourage them to invest in Jamaica?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be careful. I mean, there's enough data in the market that you could see what has happened over the last 3 years. There's enough, comparables. There's enough stories, and do your due diligence as any investor would do. But I would say, if you pick the right horses, you could win. And there are lots of innovation in terms of investments that are in the auxiliary businesses on the side that are extremely ripe and not mature yet. And the edibles line, that I said, all the various SKUs on there is completely open. So any investment in terms of that line and that direction for next year, I think would be heartful. But I think we're still at an early stage.
Thank you so much, Balaram. Alexandra, I really want to thank you guys for joining us this today in our fireside chat on investing in Jamaica's cannabis industry. And it was really a pleasure, leading this discussion with you guys. And I'm sure our participants are going to be the beneficiaries of your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience. And we look forward to the continued growth of your companies, Jacana and Kaya. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's it. We hope that you've enjoyed being with us for the past 2 days at the Explore Do Business Jamaica Virtual Investment Conference. We've shared so much information, experiences, and opportunities. Now we want to hear from you. If you're ready to do business, or if you have any questions about what we've discussed, reach out to us. You can contact us via our website, dobusinessjamaica.com, email us at info@jamprocorp.com, or send us a message on our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. If you're registered, you can also continue to enjoy access to this event for the next 3 months. Come back and explore everything that Jamaica has to offer. We look forward to hearing from you. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. Let's do business.
Let's do business indeed. They say all good things must come to an end. Well, the live stream is, but the conversation, the discussion, and the information, all that continues. The opportunities for investment will also be still available, and your trusted partner, Jamper, of course, we're here to guide you through it all. Whether you're interested in tourism, agribusiness, the creative economy, manufacturing, or global services, Jampro wants to guide you on your next business venture. Of course, reach out to us. DoBusinessJamaica.com. That's the website. Get registered, access the content, engage with the team, and schedule your meetings for more rich information to guide you on your journey. This has been Explore Do Business Jamaica, the virtual investment conference brought to you by Jampro. And thanks so much for joining us over these 2 days. And we could not do it without our sponsors. And I want to say a big thank you to them real quick before we go. We want to say a big thank you to NCB, to the Foundation for Competitiveness and Growth Project, to CNW Business, IBX, M1, Mystique, Grace, and Appleton Estate. A big thank you again, and thanks for coming on board to support. I'm Dwayne Burbick on behalf of the entire team here at Jampro. Thank you, and we look forward to guiding you on your next business venture. Do take care.
Think you know Jamaica? Let's talk about Jamaica. Let's talk business. Let's talk opportunity, manpower, and stability. Let's talk infrastructure and location. Let's talk about manufacturing, agriculture, energy, logistics, business process outsourcing, and tourism. Let's talk about your business. Let's talk vision and growth. Let's talk success. Now you know Jamaica. Enough talk. Let's do business. Do Business Jamaica.